Good morning, everyone. We have a quorum, so if you could please take your seats. The July 11th Executive Committee meeting is called to order. First, I would like to ask our interpreters to explain how to access interpretation. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll to the bottom of the Zoom screen where meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, World, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis, then interpretation, and then choose your language. Finally, click on the mute original audio to not hear the original Spanish low in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenos días, aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish, español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio, silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systemic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States, from 4 cultural groups, the Kumeyaay-Digueño, the Luceño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from Indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael, can you please confirm quorum?
We do have a quorum, Chair, with East County and County of San Diego absent.
Very good. Let's begin with non-agenda public comments. How many do we have?
We have 8 public comments, Chair.
Very good. We'll take them all.
As a reminder, no comments shall use loud, threatening, profane, or abusive language that disrupts the orderly conduct of the meeting. Disorderly conduct that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the Executive Committee meeting is prohibited. Per our board policy, the amount of time allowed for each verbal public comment is determined based on the number of agenda items, the complexity of those items, and the number of persons anticipated to offer comment. This allows us to hear from as many people as possible and to complete our business while we still have a quorum. Based on those factors, the chair has determined that today's meeting, each member of the public will be allowed 2 minutes for their comments. Also, as a reminder, Executive Committee members, we do not use the voting pads, so go ahead and raise your hands if and when you'd like to speak. But our first public, non-agenda public comment is from Purita Javier, followed by Cesar Javier.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Purita Javier, victim of toxicity from ceramic scale emissions next doors. Wika, husband and wife, the smallest political unit representing a community from city of San Diego, D9 and D4 of the region. This is our pendant with you, with a purpose consisting one single purpose. Think of one, serve as one for the survival of man. We, you and us know clean air, clean water, clean food. Man dies of carbon monoxide inhaling in less than 30 minutes. Right Honorable Marcus Bush, Chair Governing Board, Air Pollution Control District. We were classmates along with Mayor Gloria, then Councilor Rivera, Supervisor Remer, Supervisor, then Nora Vargas, Councilor Shu of La Mesa, who stepped down, and with newcomers, 4 of them, we learned that governing board taken charge of the rules while air pollution control officer Paula Forbes focuses on permit fees. Fellow citizens, San Diego, this is how Air Pollution Control District
Thank you. Your
is.
time has expired. Next is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra.
Cesar Javier, 30 years Boy Scout. We know how to do offensive. We are not on defensive mode. We are on the attack. These are the starring, accountable, assigned leadership. Number 1, Councilor Rivera, thank you. And Mayor Gloria. We asked Mayor Gloria, we wrote, knock at her door, but up to now, no in-person discussion like this. This to us is security issue. We want to be safe. We want to inhale a share of clean air from the mighty Pacific breeze. We are deprived because the hazardous business is located in improper site. Councilor Lacaba, sir, the owner renewed and the Treasury Office collected the $38 annually fee. Why? Why did you allow this hazardous business in a residential zone designated community? Why? Councilor Rivera, your party mate, you talked to him. What happened since 2021? You were the environmental chair committee working, thinker of how to preserve a suitable surroundings. Sir, you were talking about ADUs. You were talking about density issues. Why can't you not resolve this? This is a safety issue. We do not want to live in a place that is not safe, sir. Do something.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Evelyn Lopez.
All right, good morning, you guys. So, I like to talk to you guys about things that are extremely important that are going on around us, whether or not you deal with that here, you deal with it in your own cities, in your own communities, and it is something that we fund and pay for, and that's child trafficking. And it's happening in the nation, it's happening around the world, as we know it happened with what was going on in the border. But you guys need to be very concerned about what is happening to families in San Diego that are have cases with CPS or family court and are having their children ripped apart from them and tortured and tormented and ostracized and alienated, retaliated against if they come and speak out. And the person that's going to be speaking after me, I would suggest that you listen to her because it's a personal experience that she has had. And that is extremely important to acknowledge so that we can change the trajectory of the way things are going, because no child should have to be ripped apart from their parents and have the county or any government claim that that is protecting the child, that's in the best interest of the child, especially when there's things like sexual assault that happen and that the county tries to hide. They partner with Rady's Children's Hospital, with CWS and CPS. And in that, when you contract with somebody or partner with somebody, you can hide whatever you want. You allow things to be omitted from a report so that it can look a certain way, because it does put a stain on San Diego and the entire agency when there's sexual abuse going on, when these children are taken from their families and placed into the care of other people that are supposed to be looking out for their best interests and are not. And this is a very well-funded organization, like crime organization. I mean, this is a trafficking organization that's going on, and we're all funding it. And until people start to acknowledge it and people like you stand up against it and say, I will not have that be happening in my city or my county or my nation, then it will continue to perpetuate and children will continue to be abused.
Thank you. Next is Evelyn Lopez, followed by Truth.
Hello. All right. I know this is unusual topic, but I'm going to follow up with Audra. My children have been kidnapped by CPS, CWS, and there was an incident on April 10th that brought them to the ER. My oldest, my 3-year-old, had a UTI. Which 3-year-old do you know gets a UTI? And because I didn't get the police involved, now they're switching it up on me. What was it, on Wednesday, we had to go to the ER again because possible again, SA, sexual assault. And this time though, my 3-year-old actually described a person. Yeah, a person that's been touching her, all right? And you guys are allowing this. You guys are allowing people to mistreat kids, and then it's okay for you guys just to traffic them because what, they're worth money. The younger they are, the more they're worth, right? Well, my kids are not for sale, and I want my kids back because it's traumatizing for them, and not just for them, but for me and our whole family. And we're trying to fight, and we're trying to get them back. But the more I speak out, the more retaliated I get on me. But you know what? I'm not scared anymore. I'm going to speak out because I need my babies home. My babies need to come home because they're loved and they're protected with us. They're not protected over there. No one's going to love my kids the way I do, the way family does. So you guys need to know about this because this is very important. Kids don't need to be going through all this and be traumatized even more, especially a sexual assault on a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old. Are you guys listening? A 3-year-old. She's a baby. Thank you.
Next is Truth, followed by Paula Bold online.
Seems to be kind of lonely on the left side of the room. That's awkward, huh? For the record, the SANDAG learning sessions were not vegetarian or vegan friendly on their dinner option. And that's another reason why SANDAG should move to outreach events without meals. I saw SANDAG's regional plan presentation to the city of Santee, and I'm glad they came to a city that was deprived of the opportunity to go to a learning session because their council meetings are on the same day. However, there was some irrelevant information in the presentation, such as the green and orange line trolleys, which don't exist there. No needed focus on the major changes like managed toll lanes, and no breakdown of the multi-million-dollar updates to explain how bike lanes make sense in an area that was 91 degrees. The focus on the neglected 52 by Caltrans was useful, though. The topic has never come up at SANDAG. Now, here's a wonderful public transit story. I witnessed a guy on a trolley who was high on drugs, pushed the emergency button, then pry open the trolley doors while the trolley was in motion, and hopped out onto the tracks. I seemed to be the only person who had sense. I told the driver, don't let that guy back in, and he did. So when is SANDAG going to create a Vision Zero plan for public transit safety? It's obviously very serious. Next topic, in 2021, political union minion Catherine Blakespeare told the reader, quote, if we can get even just 5% of commuters to ride bikes instead of drive, we would reduce congestion, end quote. Did any city ever get to 5%? Did they ever get to 2%? Nope. From a 2024 Reader article, quote, William C. argues, SANDAG wants to reduce emissions, but road diets actually increase emissions. Reducing lanes means a longer time spent on the road with increased carbon dioxide. Making a commute longer greatly adds to stress. This is especially true when drivers look at empty bike lanes. Cars often carry a group, so when comparing road use in order to be accurate, the statistics need to account for the people in cars versus the individual on a bike, end quote. So please keep that in mind for future SANDAG presentations that have skewed stats, such as Vision Zero or managed toll lanes or HOV lanes that increase either fatalities or traffic. That is real. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Paul the Bold online, followed by Consuelo. Go ahead, Paul.
Last meeting, excuse me, good morning, Paul Bold. Last meeting, Mario announced a federal grant to create managed lanes out of 9 of the CA-805 through Chula Vista, and the possibility of turning it into a toll road. Chula Vista is tired of being picked on to pay tolls. Many of the residents are lower income and simply cannot afford being just another piggy bank for SANDAG. Yet the people who would use the 805 have little choice because the bus transportation there is infrequent and dirty. South of Bay should not pay. And the low sand thing, no wonder it's such a mess. The board seems to be hearing a lot from the PACs and work groups, which are much more likely to have a vested interest in pushing their agenda. No concern for a 100-year plan, not much concern for the people who have to lose yards, houses, or drastically reschedule their life. Or may I add, pay tolls up the wazoo for a defective system. Remember Mary's audit? Where else besides the Golden Gate Bridge District did the tolls go? Anyway, what concerns me most is that if you do a 10-year plan like the current low sand plans, you will probably pay 10 times and end up with what you'd pay for a 100-year plan. It's a bit like the money you paid to keep the tracks on the bluff. It keeps going, and how much did we waste? But by the time you start the Del Mar plans in at least 5 years, it will already be time to plan the next move. And, you know, it makes much
Thank you.
more
Your time
sense.
has expired. Next is Consuelo, followed by Blair Beekman.
Okay, so yeah, injustices of the past. Those indigenous acknowledgements are such a joke, and SANDAG's their executives are not concerned with any injustices in our county or on the planet, quite frankly. And I'm so sorry for what the woman is going through regarding her children. SANDAG can polish the language all they want. They can sit behind well-rehearsed presentations and public relations campaigns, but no matter how well you dress it up, this agency is still engaging in coercion, manipulation, and gaslighting the public. SANDAG is laying down the blueprint for the United Nations agenda under the false flag of sustainability and smart growth. We know these aren't projects designed to uplift humanity. They are designed to contain it, digitize it, and eventually control it entirely. You can place as many agenda items as you want under the banner of healthy governance, but there is no such thing. There is no such thing because humans weren't made to be governed. When you break down the word, government literally means control the minds. And speaking of controlling minds and public perception, this agency is under 2 active lawsuits, one for wrong termination of Lauren Warren, someone who dared to raise concerns, and another for gross failure in toll road management, and they want to put more toll roads up. Disgusting. And more lawsuits will be coming. It's only a matter of time before the fraud, the deception, and the collusion with the global agenda catches up in courtrooms, or worse, in the court of the public awakening. This isn't even about integrity anymore, because if it were, you'd all have paused by now. You'd have asked yourselves what you're participating in. But greed, control, and corruption have replaced any moral compass you may have had at one time. And a reminder, people are catching on.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Next is last public comment by Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for the meeting today. Thanks for everyone's public comment. DRA has been talking about child trafficking issues within protective services for years now. Good luck if this is a time she's taking some next steps to ask about what is going on with it. Could be a good learning process for ourselves. Good luck to the Javieres who I'm understanding it's the permit process. The person who is in question, he has been living there for over a decade, so he has a special status to get a permit more easily, and that can't be reviewed as easily. Learning to talk through that process, I hope, can be of help to this situation for the Javieres, and they can talk about the situation anyway. And thank you to The Truth for words about a vegan menu. To have a vegan or vegetarian menu for your committee meetings really is important. It adds creativity and a lot of additional good thought, positive good thought, compared to just having meat on the menu. It really does add a positivity. Thank you. With all that said, to comment on items of ourselves in our lives at this time. Good luck on the most northern rail design for the Del Mar area. I'm concerned about its safety issues. I hope if those are questioned, it really seems like a really good idea. Good luck on those efforts. I'm really concerned about, I've mentioned a few times now, the ideas of protest issues of ICE at this time. We're upset here in San Diego of the over-militarization when ICE comes into San Diego neighborhoods. I think we're making an important progress to mediate and ask that to stop. They may continue their ICE raids, but they can do it with less militarization. At those good practices we could be showing to LA and San Francisco at this time and can be of much help. And I think we can be moving towards something positive. Good luck in our efforts to really work together to do that. Thank you.
That concludes our non-agenda public comment, Chair.
Thank you. Any non-agenda member comments at this time? Mayor Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I did notice that, I don't know how I missed this, but that the county does not have their position on the executive is vacant. And I just wanted to bring up one more time, well, maybe not just one more time, but I would like to have us move forward with making the tribal seat and then also the county planning group two new voting members. And here it is. We have another, we don't have a county representative here. So about 500,000 or 600,000 people have zero representation on the executive committee. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. I see no other comments, so we'll now move to consent. Michael, do we have any public comments on the consent agenda?
We do. We have 3 in person, and this is Cesar Javier.
Please let us know what you're speaking to.
Thank you, SANDAG. The minutes is good, better, best. It reviews again and again our intense voice calling for abatement of a misplaced, wrongful construction and operations in a residential zone impacting health and safety. On number 3, yes, sir. This is what we missed in our meeting at the City Council, at the county, and at the Air Pollution Control District. They do not study what to talk about in the meeting. My witness, Honorable Mayor Duncan, you were there on the planning and policy, sir. On number 4, we attended the border meeting yesterday before going to the Air Pollution Control District meeting. Sir Lakaba, there are no representatives from the city. SANDAG has. Why? Why? We need the hierarchical leadership there, not the peons. Mexico was represented by honorable citizens. By golly, what is going on, Sir Lakaba? What's going on? Sir River, Tijuana River pollution. SANDAG requires you, hey, excuse me, think, and act. And that was the recommendation by both sides. No talking, but action. Thank you.
Your time has expired. Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Truth.
What's going on is fraud, waste, and abuse. That's your guys' job. It's great. And Joel probably had a better offer for breakfast, I'm sure. So let's see, we're talking about number 4, with the local meetings. Obviously, you need to extend the teleconferencing, but the cross-border relations, I mean, it doesn't matter. Even like you talk about, like, there's no representation. And even though you guys are here, you don't represent the people anyway, so it's not like there is really any representation happening. So like whether someone's here or not doesn't really affect that. Just like how long, the Tijuana River Valley issue has been going on for so many decades. And it's like, you guys think that like putting somebody on a board is like actually going to fix that. Until you deal with Mexico, it's not going to stop. And until we take this seriously and start putting fecal therapy pools down in that area, I just really don't know what we're doing here, because like that's good for people's, health and whatnot. You might as well take advantage of that. When you're talking about the toll funding that you're going to use towards, a treatment facility, it's like you're allowing Mexico to go and take toll revenue as well, but they're not going to be doing what needs to be done. And that's what's so ridiculous, is that you guys, it's like, you want to go around in circles and act like you're actually solving the problem. But I mean, as we can tell, it's not going to be solved, and people have to suffer, and people are being, we're collecting data on the people. We'll give them like an air purifier, but whoops, we gave you guys the wrong ones. That's not the one that was supposed to be there. So let's spend some more money on more of them, right? I mean, that's the way the government works, very slow and incrementally, and basically doesn't do what they're supposed to do, all while making excuses of why it's not happening, instead of going to the source and doing something about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it doesn't matter how many people you put on this board. Until you go to where it's coming from and do something about that, it will continue. We will continue to have to fund it. All while people are like suffering, they can't even make ends meet, but it doesn't really matter to you guys because you have your little humble abode to go back to.
Thank you. Next is Truth, followed by Consuelo online.
Another way to put that, as long as you don't live in IB, you don't have to care. Item 2, I think the minute should denote the obviously paid Scott Wiener minions who supported the evil SB 79. But why did Joe want to compromise with that evil in order to have a worthless seat at the devil's table? Item 3, the July 25th agenda looks good, but I hope Miriam's Transnet iTalk report isn't going to be a tacky theater show like that developer Jonathan what's-his-name face used to give. Item 4, AB 259, I have mixed feelings about public accessibility to teleconference locations a representative personally chose to participate from. Isn't really necessary or realistic, but there does need to be transparency on where a representative is teleconferencing from. Because what if a corrupt rep participates from a building next door? What if it's from another state on a trip they didn't get city approval for? We can make privacy exemptions for people's home addresses, but we should not leave loopholes in transparency. And AB 655, anything by David Alvarez can't be good. That guy proved himself a clown when he came here to SANDAG and threw a temper tantrum about the 125 he knows nothing about. And that toll just needs to stay, just to piss off Chula Vista. Note of the state's useless California-Mexico Border Council. With the current makeup of absolutely corrupt Mexico loyalists in our local government, nothing will change with the current riot, looting, cartel, and sewage situation. And did anyone notice the legislative update says that not Trump, but Newscomb was proposing deep cuts to social services and Medi-Cal. Weird, there's no cartel-funded communist riots over that. Sean Duffy demanded Los Angeles MTA spending on safety, security, and fare evasion, and I hope he does the same for MTS and NCTD. I like that the legislative report finally admitted that both Paloma and SANDAG went behind IB's back to collude with Steve Padilla to hijack SB 10. Why did the Borders Report omit Mexico's riots and looting against Americans in their lawless country? And by the way, speaking of lawlessness that they continue to do, I just healed from hydrogen sulfide poisoning on yet another bout as of Wednesday. How wonderful is that? I can go back to IB. Thank you.
Next is Consuelo online, followed by Paul the Bold. Go ahead, Consuelo. move to Paul the Bold. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Paul Bold. The legislative status report, Rubio's bill extending the operation of teleconferencing at public meetings is good. I think it should be permanent. San Diego County is too big an area for every person in the county to show up here if he or she needs to. As for Alvarez's AB 655, I think it's a dumb idea to have one more one-sided U.S.-only committee using up our tax dollars when faced with a binational problem. And I agree with everything Audra said about this. This crisis has been going on for decades and decades. I mean, let's do something local, not all these stupid committees. Please vote no on this one. And if this does pass, better get pillows. With all those agencies, I predict a lot of midnight meetings, not to mention jurisdictional issues and nothing final getting done. 3, review of draft board agenda. Didn't want to take a stab at the September 12th agenda. Actually, we can probably guess half the items. And then there will probably be an audit report and hopefully comment on the Los Angeles stuff. I'm sure bikeways will be in there somewhere. But what I'd really like to see is a few more new voting reps, East County North and South and Indigenous tribes North and South. The bigger their part in SANDAG, the better their advice will be. Item 4, hope no sole source stuff. If there is, we need a do-over on the procurement 101. Item 9, I'm glad you're updating board policies, but doing it every month could be confusing.
Thank you. Your time has expired. Our last public comment is by Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for taking my public comment. I hadn't fully read the consent calendar, but from what I heard of DRA speaking to with items about electing persons to the environmental boards in working with Mexico, really good luck with that is my hope. You have 2 really important good committees working on things. I think, you know, I used to live here in the 1980s. I'm in full agreement that, you know, we're talking in the same exact languages of the 1980s when I was here. You know, just why can't they do this? They never listen to this, you know, and on and on. And so I really hope we work towards coordination and communication. What you learn in these upcoming committee meetings, you can easily then pass along to community to understand and to coordinate with Mexico and to have that conversation to be clear and not fearful. It takes work to do that, and I hope we're at a space to do that. I know that with the with the recent protests in Mexico City, it's not just Americanos and gringos. I don't think that's the full weight of the problem. It's also the real estate developers who are allowing this and want this to take place and raise prices. The same thing I felt's been going on in Tijuana, and you know, with their new buildings. And I've been very concerned about that. And I've said here many times the importance of mixed income ideas for Tijuana. If we practice that together, what we're supposed to be doing with mixed income by 2029 here in California, I think that would be a great combination to help develop, you know, our best practices and best ideals towards affordable housing for the future for everyone. And I think we'd be a great model in working with Tijuana on that. So I hope that can address the real serious concerns in Mexico City at this time. And good luck in all your work with Mexico. I'm really happy to be here in the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public comment, Chair.
Thank you. Any board member comments on consent? I see none. May I have a, yes, Councilmember Fisher.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say thanks for the letter to HCD. I think it's important when discussing the arena numbers. You know, pulling back into local jurisdiction is so important. HCD has blanketed. I know that Mayor Duncan and Coronado have fought against this, and Pearl Beach has struggled, and it just doesn't make any sense how they've done this. So I'm grateful to see that, and hopefully they listen. That they, you know, they've not shown up to any of the meetings we've invited them to, but hopefully they hear us loud and clear. Because one of the few items that I think this whole board has been united on has been pushing back on arena numbers. So thanks again.
Thank you. And I'll be announcing this at the board meeting too, but we will be having in-district meetings with our delegation. So please set aside some time to join us. It'll be during our breaks and their breaks, but I think this is super important to make sure that we all get to them face to face and share with them our personal experiences with what's really happening on the ground, not what's theoretically occurring up in Sacramento. Very good. May I have a motion, please, to approve consent?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Jones.
Second.
Second by Duncan. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. Let's move on to the governance project update. Welcome back, Becca. Good morning.
You all hear and see me okay?
Please pull the microphone very close.
Very close.
We have challenges with the audio in this room.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you all again. I'm going to jump right in because I want to make sure you all have as much time as possible for discussion. So, next slide, please. Just as a reminder, we talked about this at the board retreat. Most of you, I believe, were there. But the purpose of this project is to really look at the structure of PACs and working groups and make sure that you all as board members are getting exactly what you need so you can make the most effective and efficient decisions. Just a note on scope, we're talking about the 5 policy advisory committees. We left off audit because their charter is very tight and clear already, so we're not looking at them. And then 7 working groups. Sometimes COBRO gets considered a working group, but we left them off because they're technically not. So that's the scope of what we've been looking at. Next slide, please. I just want to be very clear where we are in this process right now. I'm not coming with recommendations today. This is sort of the summary of what I found so far in the research that I've done, because I wanted to make sure that you all had a chance to weigh in on this and share your thoughts before we go into the next phase, which is really taking everyone's input and coming up with recommendations. Next slide, please. So here's what I'm summarizing for you today. The information that I'm sharing comes from some document reviews, a lot of board of director input. You all had a survey. We had a conversation at the board retreat. We've done 12 staff leadership interviews, 25 PAC and working group chair and staff liaison interviews. Did a look at some governance structures of other MPOs that are similar to you. And then we've had 58 responses to PAC and working group surveys. So in total, 120 people weighed in on this. And so I'm going to be summarizing the themes I've heard. I do want to be clear, though, that we didn't get any survey responses from Executive Committee, Borders Committee, Public Safety Committee, and Chiefs and Sheriffs Working Group. So there isn't input from the chair and liaison had input, but the members did not. So what we're doing right now is asking folks to do the survey again. And so I will incorporate that in the actual final recommendations. So I'm actually going to save you 5 minutes at the end for all of you as executive committee members to fill out the survey. There are minimal respondents also from regional planning and from transportation. So again, we're going to their meeting and they're going to fill it out in the meeting. Next slide, please. So this is something that's probably kind of in your minds, but I like to make it incredibly explicit so that the recommendations that we do get to at some point make sense. There are 3 things that SANDAG, both the board and staff, need that you often use PACs and working groups for right now. You do not have to use PACs and working groups for some of these, but this is these are the 3 things you use them for. And I just want to highlight that they're very different needs. And so they might, so the structures that we're trying to build might be complicated. That's my preview. So you have to fulfill some mandated requirements, right? So there are statute requirements for 5 of your public advisory committees. The ARGIS Joint Powers requires you to have the Public Safety Committee and the Chiefs and Sheriffs Working Group. And you're required to have the Social Services Transportation Advisory Committee as a transportation authority. Other than that, you have a lot of flexibility, but there's some mandated requirements. You also use these groups to understand the overarching needs of the community, So a lot of these groups are bringing you outside expertise, or folks within your jurisdictions are sharing, here's what our needs are. And then you also need them to provide input on very specific projects and programs. So I just wanted to make that explicit as we go into this, so you're hearing it through the lens of like, what is it that you as the board and SANDAG as staff need from these groups? Next slide, please. The other thing, I love that it takes so much prep to get to my actual themes, but I just want to say two more things so we're all kind of clear. There are a bunch of things that are true about SANDAG that make this project particularly difficult. So SANDAG has a very wide and varied charter, and that makes it, if you want to have sort of a standardized structure, makes it complicated to have one sort of clear, beautiful structure. So I just want us to go in with the like, it might not be quite as standardized and clean as some other similar organizations because of the breadth of what you all are in charge of. The other thing, and I know that this is on the top of your mind all the time, is SANDAG board members, but that tension between weighing the needs and wants of your jurisdiction with the needs and wants of the region, and you represent such different communities, that's always going to make PACs and working groups not perfect. And then obviously the geopolitical and environmental implications of our geographic location. If you think about all the borders that we have and that you need to manage, that's important. And then the other thing I want to say, I've done a lot of research like this, and this, I heard near universal kudos for SANDAG staff. And I think all of you as the board need to hear that I heard over and over how professional the staff are, what great support they provide the chairs, how clear their presentations and their asks are. And I just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge that for all the staff that are here as well. Okay, next slide. So here is what from the 120 people worth of input, kind of the headlines. Everyone thinks that PACs and working groups play a valuable and important role in theory, but the execution is not quite living up to what you all want them to do. So pretty much everyone talked about the importance of getting community and expert input and having folks kind of play with the concepts before they come to the board so that you all are getting kind of the best thinking from folks. You all heard this at the board retreat, but consensus from all of you as board members that you're rarely hearing meaningful summaries of the discussions that are happening right now. You would like not just like, here's a recommendation, but like what was behind that? What, was this enthusiastic consensus? Was this, what were some of the things that people were saying that would help inform your decision making? The folks on the working groups had generally positive ratings about their experience, the clarity of their working group, they think they're valuable, but they raised a lot of thoughts about how the groups operate. So things like the frequency of meetings, how much is information sharing versus discussion, those kinds of things. And then all the SANDAG staff, again, very affirming of the importance of these groups, but not always sure they're hearing from the right people at the right times to inform their decision-making, and concern that if the groups don't meet as often or the cadence of the groups means it sometimes could slow decision-making for them and slow their projects down. So that's the bottom line up front. Next slide is some themes. So I'm going to give you just a kind of brief vocal overview of these, and then I'm going to pause and ask for your thoughts and reactions to them, and if there's any of them you want more clarifying information on. So first key theme, I already covered this, most activities are discretionary. There's not a lot that's in statute besides the existence and the membership, and a little bit of the scope for the Transportation Committee, and quite a bit of the scope for the Audit Committee. Other than that, you as the board have a lot of authority to say this is what we want from these groups. Next point. Managing PACs and working groups actually requires a significant amount of resources. Staff did some calculations on the time involved in running board meetings, committee meetings, and working group meetings, and just the direct staff cost is over $2 million. So we have to make sure that that time is being used as efficiently and effectively as possible. All respondents talked about how the work of the PACs and the working groups often feels reactive as opposed to strategic. So their sense was that when the topics come, sometimes they're further along in the process and their input doesn't feel as meaningful, not always clear on what they're being asked and how the input that they provide is being used. And then there are a series of topics that folks raised that people felt like it would be helpful to have a forum for discussion before things go to the board. So for example, the Transportation Committee right now really dives into transportation issues. When recommendations from that committee comes to the board, what most respondents were saying, the board takes that seriously. They understand there was deeper discussion. But there are some topics that either go straight to the board or maybe don't have a forum for discussion. And I'm talking about things like risks, like environmental risks, not environment, but like the greater political world you're in, those kinds of things. Staff, people and culture issues. So not things like individual performance, but what's happening with turnover? Do we have higher or lower turnover? The results of the ethical climate survey, succession planning for key positions. There isn't necessarily a place for those kinds of conversations. And then on the third point, I'll just add one other thing. There isn't necessarily a forum for some folks, some roles from your jurisdictions that SANDAG staff feel would be helpful to get input from. So for example, city managers came up as a group that it might be important for them to have a forum to share their perspectives on things. Communication, I'm on communication information flows, sorry. That came up in the board retreat as well. You heard a lot of your colleagues talk about that. Where's this information coming from? Who is on these committees? Because there's a lot of turnover, both on this board, on the PACs, and on the working groups. A lot of people talked about having more regular education about what these groups do and how they have these conversations. And the working groups definitely are interested in more clarity about what happens with their discussion. So a lot of them talked about like we have these deep and meaningful discussions, but then we don't necessarily hear like what did the PAC do with that? What did the board do with that? How did that change the direction of a project? And there's a lot of structural things that people mentioned around this that we'll dive into in the next when we get to recommendations. All right, next one, please. Participants want more influence. So again, PACs and working groups said, you know, sometimes these conversations feel meaningful, but I'm not sure they're in the right point of the project to change what the outcome of the projects. And a lot of folks talked about pushing out information, not in meeting-based venues. Next one, please. There was some concern from folks about PACs, working groups, and SANDAG overall taking on work outside of the stated mission of SANDAG. There's a lot of the working groups historically, and some of them currently, have played the role of kind of like a kitchen table, if you will, like it's convening traffic engineers or other groups. Chiefs and sheriffs is a great example of this. A place for folks to come together from just different jurisdictions and share information, share best practices, those sorts of things. The working group members expressed that they thought that was valuable, but they also said, is that SANDAG's role? Like, how does SANDAG decide whether that's the best use of their time and resources? So that's going to be something to think about as well. Current structures sometimes hinder open, productive discussions or limit accessibility. Everyone was everyone understands the value of transparency, but they also talked about the formality of this space and the formality of conversations under the Brown Act. Sometimes means that people hold back on what they say. A lot of working group members and PAC members explicitly said, I don't say things that's like I have to find some other place to say them because of the sort of political environment and the formality of the setting. Lots of folks also asked for virtual options for attendance. I know this comes up for you all the time, but lots of people missed the COVID protocols that they could attend things virtually and still meet quorum. There are there are potential competing interests embedded in some of the structures. I'm not going to say that this was something I heard from everyone, but I wanted to raise it to all of you as the executive committee because I heard it enough, and I think it's an area for you all to be thinking about. Potential competing interests are something, again, super familiar to you, right? That when you're weighing your jurisdiction and regional needs. But folks did have some comments about the challenge, particularly the staff liaisons we're talking about when the chair of a working group or a PAC has different priorities than what SANDAG's priorities are and how to navigate that. And then some concerns about some of the membership of some of the committees that are deciding where funding goes, but they're also involved in those organizations. And I don't think that these are things that are, again, they weren't large themes, but I wanted to make sure that I was transparent that those were themes that came up. And then the usefulness of individual PACs and working groups varies significantly. And there was overwhelming feedback that a lot of agenda items, particularly when SANDAG is needing feedback on something geographic specific, but there's a lot of working group members that aren't from that geographic area, a lot of kind of thoughts and questions about, are there other ways that people could handle that? You just having different formats for that. So I'm going to pause here on the key themes. It's all right if I do that, right? And ask, or should I keep going?
No, keep going. Pause here. And then
Okay.
are there any clarifying questions of Becca?
Anything you'd like to hear more about?
I don't see any. You've been very thorough.
Okay, great. So next slide, this is what we're thinking about doing next. And again, this is something that I'd love to have you all weigh in on when we get to the discussion section. So I think the first thing that's important is for you all to get the PAC structure right, because everything kind of flows from that. The key discussion items I think for us to have, and the first two are going to be our discussion at the end, are what are some of the key strategic topics SANDAG will be facing in the next 5 to 10 years? Because I want to make sure that the PAC structure is set up to support the conversations that you as a board know you're going to be having. The second question is where are the gaps where having some PAC recommendations would actually help the board. So risks, people and culture, funding opportunities, et cetera. And then what is each PAC's role? That'll be something we can get to after we have feedback on the first two. Then the second step is really getting the right working groups in place. That's where you have a lot more flexibility in the scope and structure of those. I think that's going to mean having some conversations about what SANDAG's role as a kitchen table, other less formal and more flexible options, particularly on how to get geographic specific project and program input and pushing out information. And then where are you missing input from jurisdictional leaders and experts? And let's make sure that your working groups get you that. And then after we're done with that, we can tackle all the operational processes and all the feedback that I got from folks around communication, role clarity, agenda setting, and those sorts of things. That is what's next. This is the PAC structure right now. And where did Robin just go? Do you want me to go through this, Robin, or you want me to wrap up?
You can wrap up.
Okay, great. So I think once we get input from the surveys, from the PACs that I haven't heard enough feedback from, there'll be some recommendations that come for how we think about the scope and structure, ideas for you to all to explore. And I'm going to put up here the discussion questions that we'll come back to, but I believe we pause now.
That's great. And yeah, if we could leave this up, that'd be great. All right, let's go to public comment and then we'll get to member comments and discussion.
We have 5 public comment, Chair, and the first is Cesar Javier, followed by allegedly Audra. And the comments are related to the governance project being presented.
I intend to go to the Toastmasters Club lunchtime, but I think this is a right venue because this is a very, very important subject. I hope my classmate, Councilor Luqadda, I think he is an engineer. And we talk the same linear equation. The barrier here is the equation corruption equals monopoly plus discretionary. You mentioned the word discretionary without accountability. Very simple linear equation. Now going back, Ma'am, oh, by the way, thank you for the presentation. It's a specialized product. You mentioned about organizational structure. Those are the 10 fingers to keep me physically moving. And I have the head here on top when I'm standing that gives the command. This is metaphor or analogy, Ma'am. Just, you know, engineering is only good at simple sentences and period. My point here is the crucial thing is leadership in all the structural departments, if I may say it. The tentacles of working, thinking. Education is very important onto leadership because it teaches us how to make a living. Living means, what does it mean? Safe. Free from harm, free from injury. Thank you. The survey should be 360 degrees, vertical, horizontal, whatever direction, ma'am. That's our recommendation.
Next is
Especially the
allegedly
less.
Next is allegedly Audra, followed by Truth.
How exciting is it to make the government bigger? Isn't that cool? I mean, that's what it's all about, right? Then it's like, as long as we spread it so thin, it'll seem like we're really making things happen. And when you talk about, you know, the needs of communities, I mean, it's really the United Nations needs. This is a mini United Nations here in San Diego. And you're doing a great job being puppets of the United Nations in Europe. And it's great because it's like, you know, as long as we get to enslave the people and you guys get to create more jobs, right, by pretending that extending all of the things that you're doing is going to actually make a difference. I mean, look at the roads. You guys are doing a good job making it impossible for people to drive, so good job. And, you know, back to the COVID days, I bet people are bummed about that. You know what I mean? They're like, gosh, we really enjoyed that fake invisible killer dot going around that made everybody just get a jab. And then, but it let us work from home. How cool, because nobody wants to work, right? It's good. I mean, and then we're going to be on universal basic income at some point. So you guys are headed in the right direction under the United Nations, right? And I was thinking, because if you want to know like how people feel about a certain thing, we should start bringing in emojis, and you guys could be like, hey, let's pick, you just have to pick one emoji that you need to use to describe your feelings on how you feel about it so that the people know, right? Which transparency is good. And what else? Let's see, the kitchen table. How about the disposal or the trash can? That's kind of what's going on, because all you guys do is throw money down the toilet. Because if you really wanted to improve transportation, don't you think you guys would? But that's not the plan, right? And that's why you're doing a good job pulling the wool over people's eyes and pretending like we're making things easier for people, right? Just like trafficking children is also protection for children. So everything is inverted. So you guys are doing a good job there. Let's see what else can we do in the, 15 seconds. But yeah, like if you actually wanted to listen to what the people had to say instead of the United Nations, you might have a better, community out there, but that's not the point of all of it. So, yeah, I think that is good. Thanks.
Next is Truth, followed by Consuelo online.
So how much did this consulting cost? Why did SANDAG have to hire Becca, who spent over 20 years as the VP of Strategy and Organizational Effectiveness for Planned Parenthood? No company that was non-violent, non-racist, non-political, and non-divisive was possible to choose. I did like that you brought homework, though. But why did you review minutes when they don't contain anything informational? It says midpoint check-in. When did the check-in start? The questioning of SANDAG's role on issues shows just how blurred the lanes have become here. The board of directors' input was at a poorly attended, overpriced event, and board members were filling out the survey during public comment, more evidence of a culture problem. COBRO, the Committee on Binational Regional Opportunities, is an example of a redundant and useless committee. All it's done is serve Mexico. I want it eliminated. Speaking of which, it took years to get the Borders Committee back on track from working for Mexico. And the only reason it's no longer doing that to an overt extent is because of John Minto being third in command. Maybe if he was first in command, none of these committees would have ever been off track. The Public Safety Committee does nothing but give state-controlled stats. It should be focused on solutions, crime prevention, and needed policy changes. Why can SANDAG advocate for housing, but not for basic safety? The last few public safety meetings were so badly structured that public comment is often a disrespectful 60 seconds. They give me no reason to care, and so it might be more effective to have public safety be a once-a-month update at BOD. All the working groups have nothing tangible to show for their existences. Anything with the word sustainable or equity needs to be eliminated, but two are salvageable: shoreline preservation and social services. I think both should be uplifted, perhaps as full committees. The audit committee, however, is an example of an effective committee. David Zito ran that place well, even when almost every other committee was a disaster, and sometimes we have disasters over here. Overall, Odoculus captured mine and many people's thoughts on this entire topic very accurately. Hopefully there's no psycho over there. Thank you.
Next is Consuelo online, followed by Blair Beekman.
Okay, so before I begin, I want to make a respectful request to the clerk. If a speaker is in the queue but doesn't respond right away, please circle back to them. Some of us work very hard on our public comments, and to be dismissed for taking a brief restroom break, pretty disheartening, especially when we're the only ones showing up, staying engaged and participating. So when not many else in the county do, so I'd appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, now on to item 5. Let me just say this. I'm just going to make this brief. This is yet another item full of charts, data, acronyms, and procedural updates that most of the public cannot follow and doesn't want to. You say you're trying to improve governance and engage the community, but the reality is most of this is the turnoff. This item, like so many others, is packed with information that buries the public under confusion and gives the illusion that something meaningful is happening, when really it's just another layer of managed control. You say only 100 people gave input. Wow. We speak here regularly and didn't even know there was a survey, so there you go. When we hear that board members often don't even read the full summaries from working groups or advisory committees and just rely on SANDAG staff reports to make decisions, yeah, that's not governance. Again, that's rubber stamping. You can try to update policies, shift internal roles, and rearrange oversight structures all you want. But if the goal is real accountability, real representation, and actual public engagement, this ain't it. Until this agency starts operating with true transparency, respect, and honesty, you ain't governing nada. You're just managing public perception. Thank you.
Next is Blair Beekman, followed by Paul DeBolt.
Hi, thank you, Blair Beekman. Starting in 2001 to about 2015, it was my feeling we were kind of in a state of continual war in this country. So kind of our best practices of open democracy and like sharing and communication were kind of thrown under the bus. And we couldn't really talk to each other very well. And programs and spending and funding just became kind of a mess. And I think since 2015, we've been really making really important good efforts to try to be more clear with each other and more open. COVID came in then in 2020. Russia's gone to war. Middle East has gone to war. It's sad, but we're trying to practice peace. I think we're working towards trying to again address concepts of peace before war is how to address our issues. And that open democracy is the way to do that. And it's a hedge against war, actually. So, and I know you guys are wanting to practice oversight a lot. So it was really nice to hear the words for this item, to hear more constructive dialogue in the public meeting process. And another factor to consider is the idea of, like, for instance, for the Lausanne rail corridor issues, you want to do double tracking. The staff continuously presents we're going to be double tracking the whole thing. I think that's a really wrong approach. I don't think we're fully sure yet, and we want to see how this initial double tracking does. Then we'll review. And that is how the presentation should go more clearly, I think. And so our SANDAG staff kind of overly prompts how to view issues sometimes, and they have to learn to correct that and ask board persons. And that's what this item tried to do today. Get good board input and to make the presentations more clear and informational and understandable. Good luck in those sort of good efforts. And it was hopeful to hear what you said today. Thank you for this item.
Our last public comment is by Paul the Bold. Paul, go ahead. Paul, you seem to be muted.
Sorry,
Paul, there you go.
sorry, Paul Bold. I hope you can hear me better. It's a shame that only 120 people provided input, whoever these people were. I speak here regularly. I wasn't aware of the survey. And seeing the number of important committees not responding is a huge problem. Are they afraid to answer? Too busy? Satisfied with the status quo? I think we've all heard about the culture of fear at SANDAG. Chair Hebner and CEO Mario seem to be doing their best to change that, but I don't know where it happens. If it still exists, people need to take a chill pill or leave. Reports that board members rarely hearing meaningful summaries from PACs and work groups, and instead rely on SANDAG staff reports to inform their decisions. Yes and no. It is the PACs and WG's business to summarize, but they should read the whole document, take notes on the important points, then choose which to highlight in the summary, a page or less with any relevant material attached and highlight. Remember, PACs and work groups have their own biases. The board should then have the material presented in such a way that the basic choices are clear. But if a member wants to and has time, he or she can read further. From what I've seen, by the way, the members have lots of questions, but more and more they do the right thing. I heard that some might be stirring projects that favored vendors. I hope no one on the PACs or work groups has any sort of conflict of interest. Otherwise, we may have to repeat Procurement 101 forever. Repeat,
Thank you. Your time has
recycle
expired,
it.
Paul. That concludes our public comment, Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, if you could put that discussion slide up, that would be helpful. As many of you know, I've been on the board for a really, really long time, and the PACs and working groups have gone through a number of iterations, all within the same structure, but there was a different way of looking at each of them, and there was a different kind of approach. So when I first got on the board, it was a really big deal to be on PAC. Transportation was like the big deal one, and the chair of transportation was like God. And remember my colleague at the time, Joe Collegian, was the chair. It was a big deal. Executive was a big deal. And regional planning, which I was the chair of for a number of years, was my very favorite. We discussed a lot of things. Then I understand that they went through a period where there wasn't really much use of the PACs at all. They just weren't meeting. They weren't called to meet. Then we had COVID, and then there was, maybe more attendance because of the ability to be virtual, but they weren't used as much then either. And now we're having problems with quorum. We had problems with quorum a while ago because board meetings kept going over. And so it was, we would merge into their time. Now we're at a new day. We're looking at these PACs and working groups. This is a great time to be doing it as we're looking at the entire agency and seeing how can we make the most of our time, bring these packs back to being super useful for the discussion so that we can get our work done with a fully informed palette of information before us. The packs used to be a time where you could really dive in, learn things. Sometimes it was just informational, so the understanding of those pack members was a little bit deeper, so that maybe wasn't all brought to the board, but the members would discuss what they learned and bring that to the board meeting. So these are the discussion items that, maybe what I just said as an introduction might help us to discuss like what our future is going to be with this. What are the topics that are coming up over the next 5 to 10 years? It's a great way to think about where we should go with these packs and what are the gaps that would help us and the board to make better decisions. So what are your thoughts? Mayor Duncan.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm supportive of, obviously this project. With just one specific point you were mentioning about getting from the packs more content potentially to the board. One small thing we might want to consider is if it's not a, unanimous or relatively close unanimous vote out of, say, transportation, and it's coming to the board, to maybe put the vote in of what it was on the recommendation, and then maybe add some color to it, like you were saying. If it's like a one vote pass, what was the opposition's issues? And I don't want to say this because it's not, like I'm cracking on the staff, because I'm definitely not, except for on this one time, it's been a while, but we did have a transportation matter with the staff recommendation at the Transportation Committee, and that matter was unanimously 12-0, a vote of the transportation, or whatever the vote was, I think it's 12, whatever, was a unanimous vote of the members there for a different recommendation to the board. But when it came to the board, it was on the consent calendar with just the staff recommendation. So, I mean, obviously that was a one-time thing, and I haven't seen something like that for a long time, but this type of content coming to the board would probably also help ensure something like that doesn't happen.
Yeah, definitely. Any other, Mayor Sanchez?
Thank you. I've had the privilege really of being on the transportation board through my appointment on the airport authority, and so I've heard for the last 3-4 years, and I think that this past year there's been more discussion, and I really appreciated that in terms of what are we, how can we make this better? How can we kind of spread kind of the grant opportunities to more of the county in some areas that tend to not get opportunities. And I really appreciated, for example, Mario, coming back and suggesting things like, well, maybe it shouldn't be so project specific to the point where, all the funds go through like a handful of projects, and instead grant opportunities that each city can apply for, and it would be, at a spread wider. So I think some of the things that have happened during this past year, especially some of the discussions have, I think, allowed people to feel like they can talk about these things. So I can't, before, I don't know what it was that was kind of causing it to clog up, but, having more of that discussion, also trying to see how we can, put an end to, major projects that still lack funding, like for the I-5, the HOV lane through Oceanside. Just wondered, how can we, Oceanside is being hit by that, but it could be any other kind of like near the end project funding where you all of a sudden don't have enough funding to finish that whole project, and therefore you still have it on the books. How can we manage it in a way to remind people, okay, we need to finish this project to be able to do the others?
So maybe the strategic theme, the theme of that is like really taking a look at what's on the books, and if it's something that's realistic, and how we look. One of the things that Mario has brought to us is, living within our means and taking a look at what we really can pay for and we really can do. So how can we use the PACs to help us to sort of preview that before it gets to the board?
Have all that discussion at that point, because we can't do it here, right, at the board level, or maybe even at the executive, but really have those real honest discussions there, so that everyone feels included and everyone feels like, they are going to be able to benefit.
We are going to have the priority discussion coming up in the fall when we get back from our break. Are there any themes that you're seeing that we haven't discussed, things that are coming up, over the next few years? Mayor Jones?
I think it would be helpful if we had, and I was planning on bringing this up later. So when you just mentioned that, one of the things I think is the 2025 plan, having a full, and I think it would be helpful at every single meeting to remind people that this is coming. And this is, maybe something our director could do in his synopsis of what he's been working on. Just 2025 plans coming. This is going to be where it goes out to review. This is where we're going to be making a decision. Here's our timeline, so that we have a full understanding and clarity of when that's actually coming forward for both ourselves and the public. I think that would be great to always get a refresher. And if something changes, maybe say, oh, and by the way, we were planning on bringing it on this date, but then we're now going to bring it at either earlier or later due to this fact. And just, keeping us updated on timelines, I think is important. And kind of back to the projects that we're working on, here we are, and then this is what we need, and, to move it forward. And
So within that whole concept, there are like strategic themes that we could be looking at, like what are the things in the regional transportation plan that we kind of have to do?
Yes.
Because we've got metrics that we have to meet, and we all want the money to come to our cities as well, and we want certain projects. So some of the themes that I don't know that the public get is that we are kind of forced, to work within some parameters, and that leads some of our decisions to a certain direction because in a way, we don't have a choice, right?
Yeah.
So are there other themes like that sort of thing I don't know how a PAC can do that, but that's up to the brilliance of Becca to figure that one out.
I'm taking notes and I'll think
Okay.
about it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and kind of to the, just to finish that, just kind of to that point, I think it's always important to do a lot of explanation, not only to the board members, because let's face it, we all have jobs. And so, we're not doing this full time. And then also the public, because I think there's a lot of perception of, well, you can just do this. But I think the reasoning behind, and social media, it's a blessing and a curse. But I spend a lot of time with factual information that I send people, actual links to things so that they can see for themselves. So I think anytime we can actually give information of, oh, by the way, you can find that at this location on our website. And I don't know if we have it. I don't think that we do, but having also a 2025 timeline on our homepage, our landing page, you can find more information about the 2025 plan here, I think would be extremely helpful. I have something about the housing laws that affect, specifically, where people have a lot of interest on our homepage now at the city. I think always having, more information and links to actual factual information, because let's face it, people find things on Facebook and they think it's the gospel, even though it's not even true or even close to true. And I think always having those links as to the information that, is important for us to get out, I think is something we need to do better. Thanks.
Thank you. Mayor Duncan?
Thanks. Just a brief comment. Having things come to us early enough, I think, makes a big difference. I have felt
Sorry, having things come to us?
having matters come to us early enough in the process where we can have an impact is a very big deal. I haven't really felt it this year, but in a year or two ago, we did have matters, come to the board where there would be a staff report. And I know it's the nature of the beast, right? Because they're trying to get everything done and there's deadlines pushing and they can only do what they can do. But we had matters come to the board where the board and also the transportation had input and they wanted to change. But we were specifically told, well, if you do that change, it's too late. It'll jeopardize the grant or it'll jeopardize the funding. And that's frustrating because we don't want to waste our time. We want to be here for a purpose, right? So, and to Mayor Jones's point, I am definitely one of the believers in, we trust, I think the staff is very smart and competent, but that doesn't mean I don't want to see things for myself. You know, so if there's a law quoted or a rule or this is like this because that's why it's here, great, show it. Because if that is accurate, it's very, you know, it should be great to show it because it supports their position. So I'm not saying there's a bunch of devious stuff going on, but I would say that I respect the board members and they all bring different expertise and analysis, and they may well see something that, you know, wasn't seen by a staff member or management. So just a comment. Thank you.
Yeah, and in many cases that comes up in the packs, right? So people are looking a little bit more deeply in the packs, and so we want more of that sort of questioning, so we can have a, you know, a deep dive. Council President Pro Tem? Council President? What did you?
That's all right. So I appreciate this. I always appreciate when we stop and take a look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and kind of reevaluate, and it's an extraordinary effort to go forward. I have to admit, listening to this, I'm probably one of the newest board members, so my perspective is probably a little bit different. But I'm reminded of the Winston Churchill quote that democracy is the worst form of government, but it's better than all the rest. And sometimes when we spend a lot of effort, it's not working very well, but it's better than everything else we tried. And it certainly seems to me, having served now on the board, but also on a PAC and also on a working group, is so much dynamics of what's happening at the moment in terms of how productive that time is. And when there is a lot of consensus and things are a lot of quiet, I think you find people drifting away because it's like, I'm happy with the way things are. I don't need to attend a meeting going forward. I served on the Shoreline Preservation Group, and that was that interesting dynamic, like, we don't really have enough to meet every month. And then people lose focus when you're meeting every quarter, when there actually something gets built up. That one was very geographic in the nature of the conversations. I still tried to attend, even though the city of San Diego often wasn't in that. And I think, you know, one, I'm particularly sensitive to the smaller cities that have part-time elected officials and how much demand there is on their time to be able to serve, whether it is on the board itself or on a PAC. That makes it particularly challenging. And I think the point that I think a couple of you mentioned is, how do we actually get information from what the PAC's discussion was? What does the staff do with that information that is heard at the PAC level? Do we rewrite a proposal before it comes to the board? Do we discuss it? I think, as Mayor Duncan kind of mentioned, how do we get a flavor of what we understand from what they were trying to push? How do we understand the dynamics that is happening at the PAC that may influence what their conversations are? And so it just is a continuing challenge going forward. I'm not suggesting we shouldn't be doing this, but I think it gets to be very difficult. Is there really a better system that is more informed because of the broader conversations we do? And I think, you know, I think Mayor Duncan and I would imagine, I feel it, maybe every elected official feels it, is you bring it too early, I'm not ready to talk about it because it's not fully baked. So I don't want to hear about it. You bring it too late, and it's like, hey, I can't do anything now because you've already fully baked it, and you're going to upset maybe 2 years worth of work. So there's that constant tension there that I haven't heard anybody figure out how to possibly do that. But I think the PACs be involved earlier in the process, when there still is room to shape things, maybe one additional tool. And at the end of the day, again, we're all busy, and if we feel like our input isn't really going anywhere, why should I participate going forward? So I don't know if I participated in the survey. I will double back this to make sure that I did. But thank you for this good work. I think it's certainly worth the effort. Thank you.
Councilmember Fisher.
I'll be very brief. I think the one thing that's helped me is when items come from a committee, I know it's just in my mind with having Dave Zito from the audit committee kind of participate in that discussion as it's come to the board. He always gave an idea of what happened at the committee meeting. I think perhaps for any of the committee's meetings, when they bring items up, that perhaps having the chair or the vice chair participate in that discussion from the presentation part of it would be helpful.
Yeah, very good. All right, so if no further discussion, this was an information item. I thank you very much, Becca. I'd like to ask you to return with a couple of options for the executive committee to consider We've given you some feedback, and we're going to make sure that we all take our surveys. I thought because we had a discussion face-to-face on Zoom that I had already done it, but I hadn't. So I'll be doing it later. Appreciate that very much. And in the interest of time, I'd like to defer the executive committee discussion on the proposed update to board policies and discussions to the next meeting. So at this time, I will actually adjourn this meeting. The next executive committee meeting will be September 12th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned.